Council witnessed it live. Humanity's hunter mode. Unleashed Captain Day Kang stood in the center of the massive council chamber and tried not to show his frustration. This was humanity's fifth attempt to join the Galactic Council, and he could already feel it slipping away. The chamber was enormous, built to accommodate 47 different species, each with their own unique biology. Some floated in specialized tanks. Others sat on platforms adjusted for their gravity needs. All of them were watching him with something that looked like fear. Captain Day, Ambassador Velthar said from his elevated position. The Kelon diplomat's voice was soft, almost musical. His species looked like giant moths with 6 delicate wings that shimmered in the station's light. We have reviewed humanity's application once again. We have studied your culture, your history, and your biology, and we must say that the Council remains deeply concerned. Day Kang kept his face neutral. Behind him, Hanacho shifted slightly. She was his cultural advisor, and the smartest xenobiologist Earth had ever produced. They had worked together for 3 years, preparing for this moment. 3 years of diplomacy, cultural exchanges, and careful demonstrations of human civilization, and it still wasn't enough. May I ask what concerns remain? Day asked politely. He already knew the answer. They had heard it 4 times before. High Magistrate Rune leaned forward. The Korthan was built like a living tank, with thick armor plating covering his entire body. His species was one of the few in the Council that had any concept of warfare, though even they had evolved as defensive herbivores. Your biology troubles us, Captain. Your species has forward-facing eyes. Do you understand what that means to the species gathered here? It means we evolved to judge distances accurately, Day replied. It's useful for tool use and climbing. It means you evolved as predators, Rune said flatly. Every species in this council has eyes on the sides of their heads. We evolved to watch for danger. You evolved to be the danger. A murmur ran through the assembled species. Day could feel their discomfort like a physical weight. Velthar pulled up a holographic display. Images of Earth appeared in the air between them. We have observed your species carefully. You engage in something you call sports, competition for entertainment. You run races to see who is fastest. You play games where you hunt balls and score points against opponents. Your children play games of chase and capture. These are harmless activities, Hana said, speaking for the first time. They're social bonding exercises. They are predatory instinct refinement, another council member said. The speaker was a Velthian, a species that looked like upright rabbits. We have studied your history. Your ancestors hunted prey by chasing them until they collapsed from exhaustion. You call it persistence hunting. The thought alone is horrifying. Day felt a flash of anger but pushed it down. That was thousands of years ago. We've evolved beyond that. Have you? Rune asked. He pulled up more data. Your military history shows constant warfare. Your entertainment includes mock battles and strategic games. Your literature celebrates warriors and soldiers. Even your diplomats, like yourself, Captain Day, have military backgrounds. You served 12 years in Earth's defense forces before becoming a diplomat. Because I understand both peace and the cost of war, Day said. That makes me better at preventing conflict. Or better at waging it, Velthar said sadly. Captain, please understand. We are not judging you morally. We are assessing compatibility. Every species in this council evolved as prey animals or peaceful herbivores. We built this civilization on cooperation, not competition. On mutual support, not individual achievement. Your species thinks in terms of winning and losing. We think in terms of surviving together. Hana stepped forward. Ambassador, with respect, you're mistaking our evolutionary history for our current nature. Yes, humans evolved as hunters, but we also evolved to cooperate in ways no other Earth species can match. We form bonds across genetic lines. We adopt children from different tribes. We domesticated animals that should have been our competitors. We chose to build farms instead of hunting. We chose civilization over savagery. Choice, Velthar repeated thoughtfully. Yes, you chose. But the instincts remain, don't they? When threatened, humans don't flee. You fight. When challenged, you don't submit. You compete. These are predator responses. The council chamber fell silent. Day knew this was the moment. Either he could accept rejection gracefully, or he could make one final argument. He chose to fight because that was what humans did. You're right, he said simply. We are predators. Our ancestors hunted. We have aggressive instincts. We compete and we fight and we sometimes make war. But you know what else humans do? We protect, we guard, we defend those weaker than ourselves. A human soldier will throw themselves on a grenade to save their squad mates. A human parent will fight a bear with bare hands to protect their child. We don't just have the instinct to hunt, we have the instinct to protect our pack. And we consider our pack to be anyone we call friend. Rune studied him carefully. And if we reject your application again? What then? Day smiled slightly. Then we accept your judgment and continue as we have been. We'll remain in our corner of space. We'll keep our trade agreements and cultural exchanges, and we'll keep hoping that one day you'll see us as friends instead of threats. The council members consulted among themselves in dozens of languages. Day could see the discussion in their body language even when he couldn't understand their words. Fear, concern, uncertainty. Finally, Velthar turned back to them. The council has reached a decision. We cannot accept humanity as full members at this time. Your predatory nature remains a concern. However, we recognize your efforts toward peace. We will grant you observer status. You may attend council sessions and participate in discussions, but you will have no voting rights. Perhaps in time, as humanity continues to evolve culturally, we can revisit this question. Day felt the rejection like a punch to the gut, but he nodded respectfully. We accept the council's decision. Thank you for your consideration. Hana leaned close to him. Observer status is better than nothing, she whispered. It's progress. Day was about to respond when every alarm in the station began screaming at once. Emergency lights flooded the chamber with red illumination. The council members jumped in their seats, their prey instincts triggering immediately. A massive holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed a mining colony designated Theta 7, located 3 systems away. The image was chaos. Smoke filled the corridors. Sparks flew from damaged systems. And running through the smoke, Day could see shapes. Large shapes, moving with purpose. This is Theta 7 colony to any council vessel. A panicked voice echoed through the chamber. We are under attack. They breached the lower levels. We don't know how they got past quarantine. They're hunting us. They're inside the walls. The transmission cut off with a scream. The council chamber erupted in panic. Species were shouting in dozens of languages. Velthar was trying to restore order. Rune was accessing military channels. And Day Kang stood frozen, watching the surveillance feeds from Theta 7 as something moved through the colony's corridors, killing everything in its path. He recognized the creatures from the intelligence briefings Earth had received. Void stalkers, apex predators from a quarantined death world. Somehow they had escaped containment, and now they were hunting 200,000 council citizens who had no idea how to fight back. Day felt something cold settle into his chest, something ancient, something that had been sleeping in humanity for generations, waiting for the moment it was needed again. The hunter was waking up, and the council was about to see exactly what they had been so afraid of. Council witnessed it live, humanity's hunter mode unleashed. The council chamber descended into chaos within seconds. Admiral Thex, the military commander for this sector, was shouting orders through multiple channels at once. His species, the Drellians, looked like upright seals with 6 flippers. He moved with surprising speed across the command platform, accessing every surveillance feed from Theta 7. Day Kang watched the screens and felt his training take over. Years of military service taught him to stay calm during crisis. He counted 7 breach points in the colony. The Void Stalkers were moving in coordinated packs, cutting off escape routes and herding the colonists into smaller spaces. It was efficient, professional. These creatures weren't just killing, they were hunting with intelligence. All military vessels converge on Theta 7 immediately, Admiral Thex commanded. Priority emergency. Authorization code Crimson. A tactical display showed the nearby space. The closest council warship was 18 hours away at maximum speed. The second closest was 22 hours out. Dave felt his stomach sink. In 18 hours there would be no one left to save. Can't they hold out? Hana whispered beside him. She was watching the feeds with growing horror. A family of Quilon colonists was barricading themselves in a storage room. Through the transparent aluminum door, they could see a Void Stalker approaching. The creature was 8 feet tall, covered in black armored plates with 6 limbs ending in razor claws. Its head was eyeless, but thermal pits lined its skull. It could see heat signatures through walls. No, Day said quietly. They can't. The stalker reached the door. For a moment, it seemed to study the barrier. Then it began cutting through the metal with methodical precision. The Quilon family huddled together. The father was trying to comfort two small children. Dai looked away before the cutting finished. Velthar's voice cut through the noise. All colonists on Theta 7, this is the council. Help is coming. Move to your designated safe rooms. Seal all bulkheads. Do not attempt to fight. Repeat, do not engage. Our military doctrine is clear. Retreat, seal, contain, and wait for overwhelming force. Day's jaw tightened. He understood the doctrine. When you evolved as prey, you learned to hide and wait for the predator to leave. But Voidstalkers didn't leave. They were territorial hunters. They would clear every room, break through every door, and kill everything they found. Commander Ho Yun's voice came through Day's private comm. Ho was the captain of the human vessel Steadfast, currently docked 3 levels below the council chamber. Captain, we're monitoring the situation. The Steadfast is 45 minutes from Theta 7 at maximum burn. Day's heart rate jumped. How many crew do we have aboard? Skeleton crew of 45. That includes 20 Marines who were rotating back from leave. They're not fully equipped, but they're ready. Stand by, Day said. He moved toward Admiral Thex. Admiral, the human vessel, Steadfast can reach Theta 7 in under an hour. We request permission to assist. Thex looked at him with 4 dark eyes. Captain Day, we appreciate the offer, but your vessel is classified as a light diplomatic ship. It has minimal armor and no heavy weapons. The Voidstalkers would tear through your hull. We wouldn't engage them in ship-to-ship combat, Day said carefully. We would dock and extract survivors. Rune turned from his console. That would require entering the colony. Captain, your species may have predatory instincts, but these are Voidstalkers. They are apex predators from a Category 9 death world. They hunt in packs. They can smell fear through chemical sensors. They adapt to defensive tactics in real time. Your Marines would be slaughtered. Maybe, Day admitted. But right now, those colonists have 0 chance. We could improve those odds. Velthar flew closer, his wings stirring the air. Captain Day, I understand your desire to help, but the Council cannot authorize a suicide mission. Our protocols are designed to minimize casualties. We will evacuate who we can when the fleet arrives. The rest. The colony will be sealed and sterilized from orbit. Day stared at him. You're going to nuke the colony? To prevent the stalkers from escaping to other colonies, yes, Veltar said sadly. It is a terrible choice, but we cannot risk them spreading. Another scream echoed from the surveillance feeds. A group of Velthian miners were making a run for the escape pods. 3 stalkers dropped from the ceiling vents, cutting them off. The miners tried to scatter. Only 2 made it more than 10 steps. Hana grabbed Dee's arm. Her fingers dug into his sleeve. Dee, we have to do something. He looked at the screens. Thousands of council citizens were going to die because their protectors didn't know how to fight, and humanity's offer to help was being rejected because the council thought humans were dangerous. Day made his decision. Commander Ho, he said into his comm. Prepare the Steadfast for immediate departure. Combat loadout. I want every Marine armed and ready. Acknowledged, Ho replied without hesitation. Day turned to Admiral Thex. With respect, Admiral, we're not asking for permission anymore. We're informing you. The Steadfast is going to Theta 7. The council chamber went silent. Every species representative turned to stare at the human captain. Thex's face darkened. Captain Day, I forbid this. You do not have authorization to enter a quarantine zone. Then file a formal complaint, Day said. But we're going anyway. This is mutiny, Rune growled. We could revoke your observer status. We could ban humanity from council space entirely. Day met his eyes. You could. But right now I don't care about politics. I care about those people dying on my screens. And I have the ability to help them. So I'm going to try. Hana stepped up beside him. I'm going too. You'll need a xenobiologist who understands stalker anatomy. Belthar looked between them with an expression that might have been fear or respect. You truly believe you can fight these creatures? I don't know, Day said honestly. But humans have been fighting apex predators since we lived in caves. We're pretty good at it when we have to be. He turned and walked toward the exit. Hana followed. Behind them, the council erupted in arguments. Species were shouting that humans would doom themselves. Others were demanding that the steadfast be stopped by force. A few voices, surprisingly, were calling for the council to support the human attempt. As they reached the corridor, Admiral Thex's voice boomed through the speakers. All council vessels be advised. The human ship Steadfast is proceeding to Theta 7 without authorization. Do not interfere. If they wish to commit suicide, that is their choice. But I want every sensor on their approach. If humanity wants to show us how predators fight, then by the void, we're going to watch. Day and Hana ran toward the docking bay. His comm was already filled with chatter as Commander Ho prepared the ship. The Marines were loading equipment. Dr. G. Bayek, the medical officer, was setting up an emergency triage center in the cargo bay. They reached the Steadfast and strapped into their stations. Ho was in the captain's chair, running final system checks. He looked at Day and nodded once. No words needed. They had served together for 8 years. Ho knew what Day was thinking. All hands secure for hard burn, Ho announced. We are going weapons hot. Marines, I want full combat gear. Medical, prepare for mass casualties. Engineering, reroute everything non-essential to engines and shields. The Steadfast detached from the council station. Through the viewports, Day could see other ships in dock. None of them moved to stop them. The council was letting them go. Hana pulled up every file the council had on void stalkers. These things are terrifying, she muttered. They can see in thermal. They can smell adrenaline. They have redundant nervous systems so they don't die from shock. And they're smart. Really smart. Then we'll have to be smarter, Day said. The Steadfast accelerated toward Theta 7. In the council chamber, 47 species watched the human ship grow smaller on their displays. Some were certain they were watching humanity's extinction. Others weren't so sure. And on Theta 7, the Void Stalkers continued their hunt, unaware that for the first time in their evolutionary history, they were about to become the prey. Council witnessed it live. Humanity's hunter mode unleashed. The Steadfast cut through space like a knife, burning fuel at a rate that would leave them barely enough to return home. Commander Ho Yun watched the colony grow larger on his screens and felt the familiar calm of pre-combat settling over him. Fear was still there, but it was controlled, useful. It sharpened his thoughts. In the cargo bay, Corporal Su Nam was checking her squad's equipment with practiced efficiency. 20 Marines total, not nearly enough for a colony this size, but it was what they had. She looked at each face. Private Rinpak, youngest of the group at 23. Sergeant Wan Lim, oldest at 42. All of them volunteers. All of them knowing this might be their last mission. Listen up, Sue said, her voice carrying over the bay. We are going into a hostile environment against a superior predator. The council thinks we're going to die. They might be right. But here's what I know. Those colonists down there are families, children, people who did nothing wrong except be in the wrong place. And if we don't help them, no one will. She pulled up a hologram of a Void Stalker from Hana's files. The creature rotated slowly, displaying its armored carapace and multiple limbs. These things are built to kill. 8 feet tall, 6 limbs, thermal vision, armored hide that can stop small arms fire, pack hunters with high intelligence. So how do we fight them? Private Rin asked. She was young, but she had been a tracker in the wilderness reserves before joining the military. She understood predators. Sue smiled coldly. The same way humans have always fought things bigger and stronger than us. We use tools, we use tactics, and we use the one thing we're better at than any other species in the galaxy. We adapt. Engineer Tay Lim stood up from where he had been working on equipment. I've modified our motion trackers to filter out the colony's machinery. You should get clean readings on anything biological moving toward you. Also rigged up some portable lights. Stalkers see in thermal, but intense light still blinds their sensors temporarily. Good work, Sue said. She turned back to her squad. Standard room clearing protocols. 2-person teams. Overlapping fields of fire. Watch your corners. These things like to attack from above, so keep checking the ceilings. If you get separated, find the nearest colonist group and dig in. We extract survivors as we go. Dr. G. Beck's voice came over the comm. Medical ready. I've set up triage in cargo bay too. Route all survivors there. I can handle about 50 at a time. Understood, Sue replied. She looked at her Marines. Remember, our job isn't to kill every stalker. Our job is to save as many colonists as possible. The Council fleet can sterilize this place when they arrive. We just need to get people out alive. The Steadfast shuddered as it entered Theta 7's docking range. Ho's voice echoed through the ship. Approaching Auxiliary Port 7. It's on the opposite side of the main infestation. Gives us a clear entry point. Docking in 2 minutes. In the Council chamber, Admiral Thex had routed the Steadfast camera feeds to the main display. Every Council member watched in silence. Some were recording this for historical records. Others were praying in their various ways. All of them were certain they were about to witness humanity's destruction. They are actually going through with it, Velthar said quietly. I did not think they would truly commit to this. Predator pride, Rune muttered. They cannot back down from a challenge. It will cost them their lives. The Steadfast docked with a metallic clang. The airlock cycled. Tsunam led her squad into the colony's corridors, weapons raised. The lights were flickering. Emergency systems struggled to maintain atmosphere, and in the distance they could hear screaming. The Council watched through the Marines' helmet cameras. The humans moved differently than any species they had seen before. Not frantically, not fearfully. They moved with smooth, controlled steps. Eyes scanning constantly, weapons tracking their gaze. It was almost like a dance. Sue raised her fist. The squad stopped instantly. She pointed to scratch marks on the wall. Deep gouges in the metal. Stalker claws, she whispered. Fresh, maybe 10 minutes old. 4 claws per mark means 4 stalkers in this area. She made hand signals. The squad split into 4 teams of 5, each taking a different corridor. They were spreading out intentionally, something that made the Council observers gasp. Prey animals stayed in groups. These humans were dividing themselves. Rinpok's team moved down a residential corridor. Her helmet camera showed closed doors, flickering lights, and a trail of dark fluid on the floor. Blood trail, she reported quietly. Following it. Might lead to survivors or stalkers. Or both, her teammate replied. They rounded a corner and found 3 stalkers crouched over something. The creatures' backs were to them, focused on breaking through a sealed door. Behind that door, thermal imaging showed 6 heat signatures. Colonists, Rin didn't hesitate. Contact. 3 hostiles engaging. The Council chamber erupted in shouts. The humans were attacking. Not retreating. Not sealing themselves away. They were initiating combat with apex predators. Rin's team opened fire. The sound was deafening in the enclosed space. Bullets tore into the stalkers' backs. The creatures spun with terrifying speed. But the humans had already spread out. Crossfire. The stalkers couldn't charge one without exposing themselves to others. The lead stalker died in 3 seconds, armor pierced by concentrated fire. The second lunged at Rin. She dropped flat, letting it sail over her while her teammate shot it from the side. The third stalker tried to retreat, showing intelligence, but Rin was already back on her feet. She chased it down the corridor and her shots caught it in the leg joints where the armor was thinner. 90 seconds. 3 stalkers dead. 0 human casualties. Rin's team breached the sealed door and found 6 Velthian colonists huddled inside. The rabbit-like aliens were shaking with terror. Come with us, Rin said gently. We're evacuating you to our ship. Stay close and stay quiet. In the Council chamber, no one spoke. They had just watched humans hunt the hunters. It shouldn't have been possible. Tsunam's team encountered their own stalkers in a cargo bay. 5 of them this time, and they were ready. The creatures had heard the gunfire. They attacked from multiple directions using the cargo containers for cover. Tay lights, Sue shouted. Engineer Tay Lim triggered the portable floodlights. The cargo bay blazed with white light. The stalkers' thermal sensors were blinded. They thrashed and hissed, disoriented. Sue's team moved with ruthless efficiency. They had trained for this. Urban combat. Room clearing. Fighting in confined spaces. Each Marine knew their role. They created a kill zone and funneled the stalkers into it. When the firing stopped, all 5 stalkers were down. 1 Marine had a minor cut on his arm where a claw had grazed him. Otherwise, they were intact. Medical, this is Sue, sending 12 colonists your way, mostly uninjured. Some shock, acknowledged, Dr. G replied, ready to receive them. The operation continued. Each team cleared sections of the colony, fought stalkers, and extracted survivors. The humans were taking losses. Some Marines were wounded. Equipment was damaged. But they kept moving forward with grim determination. Private Rin became separated from her team when a corridor collapsed. She found herself alone in the lower engineering level. Her motion tracker went crazy. 5 stalkers, surrounding her position. The council watched her camera feed with horror. This was it. The moment humanity's luck ran out. But Rin did something that made no sense to the council observers. She ran, not toward her team, not toward safety. She ran deeper into the engineering section and the stalkers gave chase. What is she doing? Velthar asked. She is leading them away from help. Hanacho, watching from the steadfast, smiled grimly. No, she's running them to exhaustion. It's called persistence hunting. For 47 minutes, Rin led the stalkers on a chase through the maintenance tunnels. The creatures were faster in short bursts, but Rin never stopped moving. She ran at a steady pace that humans could maintain for hours. The stalkers, built for ambush hunting, began to tire. When the first one slowed, Rin turned and shot it. Then she ran again. The pack, seeing their member fall, hesitated. That hesitation cost them. One by one, as they exhausted themselves chasing the endlessly running human. Rin picked them off. When she finally rejoined her squad, she was bleeding from a dozen cuts, soaked in sweat and barely able to stand. But all 5 stalkers were dead. Dr. G patched her wounds. 47 minutes of running. While injured, how? Rin managed a tired smile. My ancestors used to run deer to death over 3-day hunts. This was nothing. Commander Ho watched the casualty reports and survivor counts update in real time. Captain Day, we have extracted 187 colonists so far. Stalker casualties estimated at 163. 37 stalkers remain, clustered in the central processing plant. And our people? Day asked. 3 wounded, none dead, but they're exhausted. Day looked at the tactical display. The remaining stalkers had gathered around a large group of trapped colonists. The creatures were smart enough to realize the humans would come for survivors. They were setting a trap. Sue, this is Day. Pull back and regroup. We need a final push. Sue's voice was tired but determined. Understood. Give us 10 minutes. Council witnessed it live. Humanity's hunter mode unleashed. The Marines gathered in what was once the colony's main cafeteria. Bodies lay scattered around them, both colonist and stalker. The humans had pushed the creatures back room by room, corridor by corridor. Now only the central processing plant remained. And inside it, 37 stalkers waited with the last group of trapped colonists. Corporal Su Nam studied the tactical map on her wrist display. The processing plant was a massive structure, 3 levels tall with dozens of catwalks and machinery platforms. Perfect ambush territory. The stalkers knew it too. They had chosen their ground well. They are learning, Hanacho said over the comm from the steadfast. She had been analyzing every engagement, building a behavioral profile. Each time we clear a section, the survivors adapt their tactics. The ones in the processing plant have seen what we can do. They will not make the same mistakes. Then we do not make mistakes either, Sue replied. She looked at her squad. They were exhausted. Ammunition was running low. 3 Marines were wounded enough that they should have been in medical. But they all stood ready. Private Rin Pak was cleaning blood off her weapon. The young woman had proven herself during her solo hunt. Now the other Marines looked at her with new respect. How many colonists are trapped in there? She asked. 214, Commander Ho Yun reported. Mostly workers who were on shift when the breach occurred. They are sealed in the control room on the upper level. The stalkers have surrounded the position. Why have the stalkers not broken through? Engineer Tae Lim wondered. They have had time, Hana answered. Because they are waiting. They know we extract survivors. They are using the colonists as bait to draw us into their killing ground. In the council chamber, this analysis caused a stir. The stalkers are thinking tactically, Admiral Thek said with disbelief. They are using hostages as strategic assets. They are apex predators, Velthar replied quietly. They evolved to hunt prey that could think. Of course they can think too. Captain Day Kang listened to the discussion and made his decision. Sue, we are not leaving those people. But we are not walking into their trap either. Tay, can you access the plant's environmental systems? Tay pulled up the colony's computer network. Most of it was damaged, but some systems still responded. Yes, I have access. What do you need? Can you manipulate the temperature? The airflow? Anything that would affect the stalkers? Tay's eyes lit up with understanding. They see in thermal. If I create temperature differentials, false heat signatures, yes. I can blind them selectively. Make them think we are coming from directions we are not. Do it, Day ordered. And map every air vent, every crawl space, every access tunnel in that plant. We are not going through the front door. The council watched as the humans began their final assault. But it did not look like any assault they understood. The Marines did not charge. They did not form battle lines. Instead, they disappeared into the colony's infrastructure like ghosts. Tay worked his engineering magic. Heaters activated in empty rooms. Coolant flooded other sections. Fans created moving air currents that masked human heat signatures. The processing plant's temperature map became chaos. Inside the plant, the stalkers stirred with confusion. Their thermal vision showed heat sources everywhere, but none of them matched human patterns. They clicked and hissed to each other, communicating in their own way. Sunam's team entered through a maintenance shaft that led to the lower level. They moved in absolute silence, weapons ready. Through her helmet camera, the council could see the stalkers above them, pacing on the catwalks. The creatures knew something was wrong but could not pinpoint what. Rinpak led another team through the air vents. The spaces were tight, barely wide enough for a human to crawl through. But they provided access to every level of the plant. She moved with her tracker's instincts, reading the scratches on the metal to know where stalkers had been. A third team, led by Sergeant Juan Lim, approached through the waste disposal tunnels. It was filthy work, crawling through refuse and chemicals, but it brought them to the heart of the plant undetected. All teams in position, Sue reported quietly. We have visual on the control room. 14 stalkers in direct line of sight. Estimated 23 more in the surrounding structures. Wait for my signal, Day commanded. He was coordinating the entire operation from the Steadfast, watching 6 different camera feeds at once. Tay, initiate the flush. Engineer Tay Lim triggered his programmed sequence. Every air vent in the processing plant suddenly blasted at full power. Loose debris flew through the air. Temperature spikes fired in random patterns. And from dozens of hidden speakers, human voices played on recording. The stalkers went into a frenzy. They heard humans everywhere. Their thermal vision was useless in the chaos. They scattered, searching for targets that did not exist. Now, Day shouted. The human team struck simultaneously from 3 directions. Sue's team emerged from below, shooting upward through gaps in the catwalk floors. Rin's team dropped from the vents onto stalkers' backs. One's team breached from the side, creating a crossfire. The stalkers tried to respond, but they were fighting blind. Every time they turned to face one threat, another team hit them from a different angle. The humans were not fighting as a single unit. They were operating as independent packs, each with their own objective, but all working toward the same goal. A massive stalker, larger than the others, emerged from behind a processing tank. It was 12 feet tall, its armor plates scarred from what must have been decades of hunting. The Prime Alpha. The leader, it charged directly at Sunam's position. The Marine Corporal stood her ground and fired, but her bullets sparked off its thicker armor. The creature was too big, too well protected. Sue, move! Rin shouted over the comm, but Sue did not move. She kept firing, aiming for the joints, the gaps between plates. The Alpha was almost on top of her when her weapon clicked empty. She dropped the gun and drew her combat knife in one smooth motion. The council observers gasped. A human was going to fight an apex predator with a blade. It was suicide. The Alpha swung with massive claws. Sue ducked under them, feeling the air split above her head. She stepped inside its reach, too close for it to strike effectively. And then she drove her knife up through the gap under its jaw, into where Hana had identified the neural cluster. The creature thrashed. Sue held on, twisting the blade. For a moment that felt like forever, they were locked together. Then the Alpha went limp. Sue pulled her knife free and stepped back, breathing hard. Primary threat eliminated, she reported calmly, though her hands were shaking. The remaining stalkers lost coordination without their leader. They began fighting individually instead of as a pack. The human teams pressed their advantage. Within minutes, the last stalker fell. Control room, this is Corporal Sunam of the human vessel Steadfast. We are coming to evacuate you. Please open the doors. There was a long pause. Then the sealed doors slid open. 214 colonists stared at the humans in shock. They had watched the entire battle through the transparent walls. They had seen 20 humans defeat 37 stalkers. Come on, Sue said gently. Let's get you somewhere safe. The evacuation took 2 hours. Every colonist was accounted for, checked by Dr. G. Beck, and settled into the Steadfast's cargo bays. They were packed in tight, but they were alive. Commander Ho Yun reviewed the final count. 187,432 colonists extracted. Total stalker casualties 200 confirmed. Human casualties 3 wounded, 0 dead. In the council chamber, absolute silence reigned. Every species representative stared at the displays, unable to process what they had witnessed. A handful of humans had accomplished what should have been impossible. Captain Day Kang stood in the Steadfast's cargo bay, looking at the thousands of grateful faces. 47 different species, all saved by the predators they had feared. Admiral Thex's voice came through the station comm. Human vessel Steadfast, this is Council Command. The military fleet has arrived at Theta 7. We are reading the colony as clear of hostile contacts. We are also reading nearly 200,000 life signs aboard your vessel. Please confirm this data is accurate. It is accurate, Admiral, Day replied. We will begin transferring survivors to your ships immediately. That will not be necessary, Thex said, and there was something new in his voice. Respect. You have done more than enough. Proceed to Council Station. We will receive the survivors there. And Captain Day, thank you. The Steadfast turned away from Theta 7 and began the journey back. In the cargo bays, colonists whispered among themselves. Stories were already forming. Legends being born. The humans who walked into hell and brought them back out. Hana found Day on the observation deck. He was staring out at the stars, still processing everything that had happened. The council is calling for an emergency vote, she said quietly. They want to discuss humanity's membership again. Day nodded slowly. Do you think they are still afraid of us? Yes, Hana said honestly, but now they understand why that fear might be a good thing. For them. Council witnessed it live. Humanity's hunter mode. Unleashed, the council station's docking bay was unlike anything the colonists had ever seen. Thousands of them poured off the Steadfast, greeted by medical teams from every council species. Ambulances hovered nearby. Relief supplies were already being distributed. And everywhere, the saved colonists told their stories. Captain Day Kang walked down the ramp and found himself surrounded by grateful aliens. A Quilon mother pressed her children forward to meet the human who had saved them. A Velthian miner clasped Day's hand with both paws, tears streaming down his face. A Drellian engineer tried to find words but could only bow repeatedly in thanks. Corporal Sunam and her Marines received similar treatment. Private Rien Pak was hugged by a group of younglings who had watched her hunt the stalkers. The young Marine looked uncomfortable with the attention but accepted it gracefully. They see us differently now, Hana Cho observed, watching the scene. Fear and gratitude can exist together, Day replied. Maybe that is how it will always be. Ambassador Velthar approached through the crowd. The Quilon diplomat looked exhausted. His wings drooped with fatigue. But when he reached Day, he performed a full formal bow, wings spread wide. It was the highest sign of respect in his culture. Captain Day Kang, Velthar said, the council wishes to speak with you immediately. An emergency session has been called. Day followed him back to the council chamber. As they walked, Velthar spoke quietly. I owe you an apology. We judged your species based on fear rather than understanding. You are predators, yes, but we did not consider what that truly means. Predators do not just kill. They also protect their territory, their pack. And you have decided that we are part of your pack. You were not wrong to be afraid, Day said. Humans are dangerous. We have a long history of violence, but we also have a longer history of choosing who that violence defends. We are not mindless killers. We are guardians who remember how to hunt. They entered the council chamber to find it packed. Every species representative was present. Additional observers filled the gallery spaces. News of the Theta 7 rescue had spread across council space at light speed. Everyone wanted to see what would happen next. High Magistrate Rune stood at the central podium. The heavily armored Korthan looked at Day with an expression that might have been shame. Captain Day, the Council has reviewed the complete records of your operation at Theta 7. We have analyzed every engagement, every tactical decision, every casualty report, and we have come to understand something we should have known from the beginning. He paused, choosing his words carefully. We evolved as prey. Every species in this council learned to survive by hiding, by fleeing, by waiting for danger to pass. For 10,000 years, that philosophy has kept us safe. We built our civilization on the principle that violence only breeds more violence, that the best defense is to avoid conflict entirely. Rune's voice grew stronger. But Theta 7 proved that philosophy has limits. When the Void Stalkers breached containment, our protocols failed. We were prepared to sacrifice nearly 200,000 citizens because we had no other solution. We would have called it necessary. We would have mourned. But we would have done it. He looked directly at Day, and then you showed us a different way. You did not accept that sacrifice was necessary. You did not hide or flee or wait. You fought. You adapted. You hunted the hunters. And you saved our people. Admiral Thex stepped forward. The military data alone is astounding. 20 Marines defeated 200 Void Stalkers in direct combat. Your casualty ratio was 100 to 1 in your favor. Your tactics showed creativity and adaptability we have never seen. You turned the environment itself into a weapon. You used the Stalkers' own intelligence against them. But more than that, Velthar added, his voice soft. You showed mercy. When you extracted survivors, you comforted them. Dr. G. Beck treated every injury with care, regardless of species. Private Rinpak carried colonist children on her back when they were too scared to walk. You did not just save bodies, you saved hope. The council chamber filled with murmurs of agreement. Day noticed that the earlier fear in their eyes had been replaced with something else. Not quite trust yet, but respect. Recognition. Captain Day Kang, Rune continued formally. Humanity's application for council membership is being reconsidered. But before we vote, we need to understand something. What you did at Theta 7 revealed capabilities that terrify us. You are everything we feared. Efficient killers. Strategic thinkers. Apex predators in every sense. So we must ask directly, what are humanity's intentions? Day felt the weight of the question. The entire council was watching him. Billions of citizens across council space would hear his answer. This moment would define humanity's relationship with the galaxy for generations. He thought about his Marines, exhausted but unbroken. About the colonists they had saved. About humanity's long history of violence and longer history of choosing to be better. Humanity's intentions, Day said slowly, are to be what you need us to be. You evolved as prey. We evolved as predators. That is biology, not destiny. But it does mean we understand things you do not. We understand how predators think, how they hunt, how they can be defeated. He gestured to the displays showing Theta 7. You asked what we want. We want partnership. We want to join your civilization and contribute what we are uniquely qualified to provide. You have built a society based on peace and cooperation. That is beautiful. But the universe is not always peaceful. And when the darkness comes, when something threatens your people, you need someone who knows how to fight that darkness. Are you offering to be our warriors? Asked a council member from the sentient species. Our soldiers? No, Day said firmly. We are offering to be your guardians. There is a difference. A warrior fights for glory or conquest. A guardian fights to protect. Humans learned that difference the hard way. Over thousands of years of our own wars, we learned that the strongest fighter is worthless if they do not know what they are fighting for. He looked around the chamber. We are predators. We will always be predators, but we choose what we hunt. And we choose to hunt the things that threaten the innocent, not for power, not for territory, but because that is what pack members do. They protect the pack. Silence fell across the chamber. Then Velthar stood. I call for a vote. Humanity's membership in the Galactic Council. All in favor. One by one, hands, tentacles, and various appendages rose. 41 species voted yes. Only 6 voted no, and even they looked uncertain rather than hostile. The measure passes, Rune announced. Humanity is hereby granted full membership in the Galactic Council, with all rights and responsibilities thereof. The chamber erupted in a mix of applause and uncertain chittering. Day bowed respectfully. Hana, watching from the observation gallery, felt tears on her face. They had done it. After 5 attempts and 1 desperate rescue mission, humanity had earned its place among the stars. But Rune was not finished. There is one more matter. The Council recognizes that humanity possesses unique capabilities that may be needed in future crises. Therefore, we propose the creation of a new position, Council Security Specialist. Captain Day, would you accept this role? Day considered. What would it involve? Training our security forces in your tactical methods, consulting on dangerous situations, and yes, when necessary, leading rescue operations like Theta-7. You would have authority to act in emergency situations without waiting for full council approval. You are giving humans military authority? Asked one of the no voters nervously. We are giving trained professionals the tools to do their job, Thex corrected. After what I saw at Theta-7, I trust humanity's judgment in crisis situations more than I trust our own protocols. Day looked at Hana, who nodded encouragement. I accept, but I have conditions. My team operates with full transparency. Every mission is recorded and reviewed by the Council. We train your people, not replace them. And most importantly, we only act in defense, never in aggression. Agreed, Rune said immediately. Is there anything else? Yes, Day smiled slightly. Corporal Sunam gets promoted to lieutenant. Private Rinpak gets promoted to sergeant. And Dr. G. Beck gets whatever medical resources he needs. My people earned that. Done, Velthar said warmly. The session ended with formal ceremonies that lasted hours. But eventually, Day found himself back on the steadfast observation deck, watching stars drift past. Hana joined him carrying 2 glasses of water. Do you think they will ever truly trust us? She asked. Maybe not completely, Day admitted. But that is okay. Trust is built over time. Today, we proved we could be trusted with their lives. That is a start. The colonists are calling you heroes, Hana said. There are already songs being written. Stories spreading. The humans who walked into hell and came back. We are not heroes, Day said quietly. We just did what needed doing. That is what Guardians do. Below them, in the cargo bay, the Marines were finally resting. Commander Ho Yun was writing his after-action report. Engineer Tae Lim was repairing damaged equipment. Dr. G was checking on the 3 wounded Marines one more time,